And I think the next one, if we want to switch over to the Single Cask Nation one,
Oh yeah.
that one's in an MGP Indiana light whiskey
Yeah.
that's aged 12 years, and it is 54.1% alcohol on this one. And I know you know a little bit more about them than I do. Even last night when we were talking about it, Mike, you had way more information, so I'm going to let you roll on these guys.
Okay. So Single Cask Nation, they're a pretty cool couple of guys. They used to have a festival. It actually recently went on hiatus, as I understand it. That was called they owned the Jewish whiskey company, and they put on this festival in New York, Chicago, and Seattle called the Whiskey Jubilee. And you would have they started coming out with their whiskeys that were festival only. It served kosher food and everything, and some of but they pick single casks to go and have at their festivals. Well, then they would bottle those, and you could only get them at the festival. Well, then they started Single Cask Nation, and there's a retail wing of it that on their website you can find it. But I know the closest one to me is Illinois. There's some in Denver, New York, and stuff, and it has its own labeling for Single Cask Nation, same name, but then the online version has its own labeling. And they don't do as many releases online, but everything is a single cask. And they've done a couple of things with light whiskey. One of the two guys, so one of them is a American Jewish guy. The other one is a Scotsman married to a Jewish lady. And one of them really likes the light whiskey more than the other one does. But they are they go into Westland, Lefroy, Wild Turkey, Ben Nevis, Klein Leash, and pick out these casks. And they've had, like a 2-year-old Westland that, but they're picking specific characteristics of this cask. And it's, by all accounts, amazing. Or even a 5-year-old Lefroy. But releasing it at cask strength, 5 years old. And there's anything that I've had of theirs has been great. This light whiskey came up, and it's like I said, it's 12-year-old light whiskey, which was bourbon and Scotch were not popular, so they came up with the light whiskey classification for the people that like vodka, and it's grain whiskey. It's American grain whiskey, and most of the time it's made to be put into blends of stuff, but on its own it can be pretty good. As you said, this is their bottle from it. And the other thing too is they are all about transparency. They tell you everything about where they're getting all their stuff. They don't mess around at all. They're transparency gods as far as I'm concerned. You can join Single Cask Nation for free, just through their website. They do have their own Facebook group that you throw some questions and get on there. And it's they're pretty cool. But yeah, the whiskeys, they speak for themselves pretty easily.
And just like you were saying, they seem to go to places that are unique, like just going to Westland and even thinking about a 2-year-old. But a lot of Westland I've had has been pretty interesting. Oh, hey, Arthur, thanks for stopping in. Appreciate that. How are you doing this evening, everyone in the chat? Oh, and what the hell are you guys drinking? I didn't set the alarm. I didn't set it, so I think I think we're past the 5 minutes. I can get away with whatever I want to say now. But just when you were, yeah, we're not going to rattle it off like on Dungeons and Drams when the alarm goes off. We'll hold off on that one. But just the fact that what did you say they called their first festival?
Whiskey Jubilee.
That you can have fun with yourself. I mean, that in itself is kind of neat. I like people that can play with it and not feel, I don't know, too proper all the time, even though it is really neat and stuff. But I'm like, I like people that can have a little fun even with themselves. That's a cool name. Like but like you were saying, just going to the right places and trying a 3 or a 5 or different ones to see how they kind of land out at. Because the most interesting independent bottle I heard of is when Brad LeClaire had like a 3-year-old Talisker, and he was getting all sorts of crazy banana bread on it. And I was like, okay, that sounds incredibly cool because I like banana bread. I'm like, but who would have thought like in 3 years that you would have like a salty banana bread thing going on?
Right.
So,
And
oh,
that's why I like about independent bottlers, because you get, instead of the if you like Lefroy, you know what you expect. If you're a person that I buy Lefroy 10 all the time. I know what it's going to taste like. This is great, but that's been blended to get to that profile. And these guys go in and they're like, that's great, but this one cask is really unique and weird, and we're not doing anything to it. This is cool. And they also had a Glen Talkers, which
oh,
we would never see really on the shelf
exactly.
because it gets thrown into Chivas and other stuff. But you could go buy them as Glen Talkers, or there's one other independent bottler that gets it over in Europe that we'll never see.
That's what I mean. You're rarely ever going to see some of the things that some of these guys go get.
Yeah.
So that's another thing where if it isn't an off one, you're like, well, I'm never going to get to touch that. Like no one really ever gets to touch it. So it's nice to see what's going into some of the blends when you hit that, even though it is like a special cask, basically.
Right.
Oh, and Arthur, there's nothing wrong with a little oogie this evening. That's always tasty. That's always tasty. And just straight Tawny Port, Benjamin, after the Macallan 12. I can see you doing that. You trying to compare the sherries to the Macallan that you had in a little bit with that. That's always neat. Ooh.
Yeah.
You can tell there's a little bit of rye spice in it on the nose.
Yeah. This is also let's see what it's finished. So it's 12-year-old light whiskey that was in a bourbon, a rye, and an IPA cask.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense. Now I have more excitement with what it is. Usually
The breakdown is let's see, I got it on a computer. 8 years in first fill bourbon, and then 4 years in then different bourbons, X ryes, and IPAs.
see, and that's neat. And if for those of you who are not watching or watching later, because I think pretty much everyone in the chat knows what light whiskey is, they kind of distill a little bit higher and they pull a little bit more flavor out of it. Like you were saying, they were gearing towards people who liked vodka a little bit more.
Yeah.
So, but then after so they did that and then they put it in a bunch of different barrels to pull flavor back into it. Yeah. So I like that. So
yeah.
But on the nose, you can tell like that probably it was distilled, that it is a light whiskey because it's nowhere near as robust as the Wood hat on the nose.
No, it's not. And that's what's weird. And it's a higher ABV, and it's not in your face as much as that one.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
It's a lot sweeter on the nose than what
mm-hmm. You can tell it's definitely more of a grain when you drink it. Mm-hmm. It is. You get a sweeter note. Wow. Halfway through is when I think all the excitement happens.
Yeah.
Because that's where you can tell it was in a bourbon barrel. But when you're seeing like and it sticks around. I got to go back to this one too. Yeah. These are two excellent ones so far just because of the flavors on the last one and this one. Though they're married together really well.
Yeah.
It's not like there's spiky punches going in any direction. This is really nice too.
The flavor reminds me of those. Have you seen those? It's a chocolate sphere that's like an orange, and you smash it, and it's got like orange to it. So you get like the chocolate and then the orange flavoring to it.
As soon as you said that, I am getting like that orange flavor. Like on the second one, like right as you said it, and I was swallowing, it was like boom, orange. Mm-hmm. So, that's neat. I dig that quite a bit. Hold on. Yeah. I want to say a titch of lemon, but I've been getting lemon on a lot of stuff lately. So that's I don't know. Sometimes when you go in a row, you just kind of keep pulling a flavor, but the orange is definitely there. And you're right. Is it a Kinder Egg?
I don't know what that's called.
I know those are one that have like little toys on the inside though, so I could be wrong about which one, but I just remember it was like, don't give those to kids. I'm like, well, it is candy. You know, they're like, oh, it's got this little tiny robot that basically falls apart into little pieces.
One of the things about the Single Cask Nation is their notes. If you get on their site and look at their tasting notes for their whiskeys, it reads like a J. Peterman catalog.
Oh,
And they're so in depth and thick, but you read it and you're like, oh bullshit. but you keep going, you're like, oh, okay. But I still like, if I read their notes while drinking something of theirs, it reminds me of, Seinfeld when Elaine's trying to come up with one, and all of a sudden she's like, yes, she comes up with it.
Yeah, and that, like, again, that's someone, I don't want to say having fun with what you're doing. And you're like, okay, I could say this or this, but like on a rainy day and wherever you can smell whatever coming off the ground. And
and they do all of their American whiskey bottlings. They had the cool glass stoppers, but you can't pull them straight up. You got to pop them, and they're nice and heavy.
Like those are keepers, because if you ever lose one of yours, it's like the greatest replacement ever.
It's also kind of a good theft deterrent, because if you had a friend that comes over like I have and they're trying to pull it off and they can't get to come off until they flip it, they can't steal any of your whiskey.
You can catch them kind of cheating, trying to steal yours. Hey, what are you doing over there?
Yeah, that is good stuff.
That is. And Arthur, an underground aged whiskey. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued about where you're getting this underground whiskey. Any underground whiskey sounds exciting, but yeah. And what are you mixing it with? Oh, you went down to Treaty Oak. Oh, Treaty Oak I haven't been there, but I've heard good things from people who have been down there and seen it. But I don't know. Underground whiskey sounds like something I should be doing, doesn't it? Like you have your own quiet still in the basement, and the little one, and you're not supposed to. But whoever your friend is that has it, I'd like to know if it's good or not. But no, it is a little bit of grainy. I can see how maybe at a lower proof you would easily want to kind of mix this with something else. But just the way it is like this, you only get that grain thing for just like a second, and then it kind of fades away real quick. That was like right at the front, and then all of a sudden, boom, flavors overrun it.
Yeah, it doesn't drink as 54% either.
Yeah, I was gonna say you get those flavors and then it kind of disappears real quick afterwards.
Yeah,
but there are some oils and tannins. Oh, that's right. I should be quiet about underground. You can just message me quietly. You're right. We shouldn't mention underground whiskey and who made it on the actual live stream. You can hit me directly up, because that sounds exciting. And if we ever get a bottle, I share really well. No, but
you're a good sharer and a generous lover.
You got to talk to other people about that. I mean, I want to say yes, but I don't like to toot my own horn. So you gotta go find people to say that. Yeah, and there's just like a little bump where you get like that orange, and it goes up a bit, and then it kind of comes back down.
Yeah.
This is why all of a sudden the trip to Illinois is a little more exciting now.
Yeah.
Because if they have them there, and like Mike said, you can sign up to be a part of Single Cask Nation online. I would go do it. That's one of the lists for tomorrow for me, because I think usually, I mean, there's a couple of places in the U.S., but usually you think independent bottlers, and you think, Europe is where they have a whole bunch of them, and they'll go trying different stuff. And there's only like a couple in the U.S. that I know of, but I mean, we can get stuff, but a lot of times it is stuff from over in Europe that are doing it. I don't know, and I'm always concerned now that extra 25%, if it really does get here. It hasn't seemed to hit in a lot of the places I've gone to yet on scotches, but
Not yet. December 1st is what I heard.
oh, like I thought it went into effect already or something, and I was like, well, maybe all the stuff is still here, and that wasn't taxed yet. But like the next time it ships in, I'm fucked.
There's a it's a place in the Twin Cities. Well, I guess on Minneapolis side called Ace Spirits. They ship around, but you can sample a lot of their stuff in the store. But they sent a notice to me that they have they're doing a Scotch sale before the tariffs, and their prices are pretty good anyway. But they knock some prices down on stuff pretty heavy. That I'm looking at. It's a 6.5 hour drive, which I've done more than once up there. It's like, okay, what would I need to do to justify driving up there? And
like I said, maybe there's like I always when I go travel some places, maybe there's a concert there that I want to see. So justification in there. Totally like that. Oh, yeah. And Brad Leclerc is right. Leclerc, sorry about that. First rule of Flight Club is don't talk about what's in the flights. Yeah, that's true. You have me there. I should have never done that. I broke rule 1 on the second whiskey. I'm not supposed to break that till whiskey 5.
I get like a really weird gin aftertaste too.
Yeah, it gets a little herbally for a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I'd like the Wood Hat one better, but this is definitely an interesting choice, especially for a 12-year-old. That was, when I saw that, I them sit on it for that long, because I guess I don't know how long MGP would really sit on stuff. I always feel like maybe they get to 4 or 5, and everyone wants to get something at that point and do something with it right away. Yeah. I'm sure they were sitting on 12s, but when I was looking at Lou Price. Oh, go ahead.
They're doing a lot of stuff we don't even know about.
Yeah.
They make good whiskey. They really do.
Well, and that's what they're doing. People who wanted to like shit on them and stuff. I mean, it was I get it, but at like the same time, once you find out like, oh, this like these 10, 12 other whiskeys I've had, they all come from there.
Right.
And you're like, oh, well, then I guess I kind of have to shut up about it.
Yeah.
It was just a label that was getting people kind of upset. And they do a decent job with what they're doing. And if they didn't, you probably wouldn't have, I'm going to say maybe a quarter of the craft distillers, because that's what you're going to do the first 2 to 4 years while you're making your own stuff, is probably sell someone else's, right, or learn to blend it on your own. So right. I don't know. I don't hate them anywhere near as much as a lot of people do, but
nah, it's more about the bottler that's not letting you know that it came from there, and even some of the big distillers that go to them because they know rye better than just about anybody else. So like, well, let's see, I could put this messy grain into my system and have to do this, or
I can just walk over here and give you some money and it can show up on Thursday.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, that one was really nice. I really liked that one quite a bit.
Yeah.